I guess we will have so much amazing content with you, so I will upload one date, like an absolutely separate one. Good. So, Riina, where are we?
We are in the Estonian parliamentary building, Riigikogu, and Riigikogu will celebrate its 100th birthday in September, I think 12th of September, and this is a hall for different displays of paintings.
What do you do here?
I'm a parliamentarian. It's my first term. I was elected in March 2019.
What is social democracy from your perspective?
Social democracy, I would say, covers two aspects. One is our freedoms, that we have the possibility to live in a democratic, free society that respects human rights. We have the rule of law. But the other hand, social democrats stand for the opportunity for everyone to participate in a society, to get a good education, to have enough means for their everyday life. So social democracy balances the freedoms and rights and the equal opportunity to actually make use of the freedoms and rights that you have.
Why social democrats lost so much in the last 10 years?
In Estonia, social democrats lost, for example, 1/3 of the seats during the last parliamentary elections. The reasons are, I would say, some from like internal politics and some coming from outside. For example, the ability of new media, social media, to share different ideas, whether it's populist or other very, I would say, polarizing opinions or views. So that it's that global environment that doesn't support this, I would say, like a straightforward and evidence-based policy making, because often when you actually want to solve a problem, it's complicated, too complicated to fit it into a one sentence and offer an easy solution. And secondly, in Estonian politics, the question of being in the government, and in the government you have to make decisions that are not popular, that there are some things that are a responsible choice to make. It was a combination of political choices, the global environment, communication tools we used. So as with many things, if a disaster happens, there's usually not one cause. It happens when several unfortunate, incidences or collide. And I think this happened to the social democrats in Estonia as well.
You ran as the head of Social Democrats a few days ago.
I ran for the second time. I lost for the second time. I don't know, I think it's more of a question to the voters, that how much was it because of the different, platforms or ideas. But I felt that this time it was better for me than the last time. The last time, 2.5 years ago, there was a lot of that. The children are so small. How can you manage it? Riina, I don't want you to go through this. Can you imagine what they do when you hire the head of the party or whatever? So there was a lot of people who thought that they care about me, so they won't give me the vote. I think this time it wasn't that much about it. So, but the question to the voters, why they choose that way.
But the candidates were the same, except Sar didn't run.
Yeah.
And last time you got more than Lauri.
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
Yeah, no, I didn't. It was the same situation last time as well. Yeah.
Bad preparation, I'm sorry. I was absolutely sure.
But you weren't a member that time, so.
Yes, I was a kid. I was going to the school.
Oh,
yes.
don't say.
Okay.
What does it say about my age then?
Don't worry, you're not. Actually, when we are sitting there, a few ladies from Ida-Virumaa were sitting in front of me in this hall, and they were saying like, you are too young because you're only 30.
I'm only 39, but where?
Yes.
You
Good
don't
looking.
Need to, but you don't need to count the years, you know.
Yes, exactly. Actually, it's interesting that you have only 12 or so, 19 days differs like from
From
Lauri.
Lauri.
Exactly.
We are pretty much exactly the same age, yeah.
And you're from like same family tree.
Yes, we are relatives.
So much in common. But how your programs differed?
We are both social democrats, so there was a lot in common, whether we talk about reducing inequalities or so on. I stressed more or emphasized more education, because I really think that the only way forward for Estonia is to give the best education, the world's best education to our children. It's for a small country. This is the only thing we can do, whether we talk about preserving our culture and language, or when we talk about the transition to climate neutrality or something else. It's there's no arguing. But do we have to focus on regional inequalities and pay issues, or do we look at the climate transition and then the educational issues? These were the aspects we debated about inside the party.
But also your program differed on the point like where we get votes from.
Yes, we differ. I would say this was even the biggest difference. Should we go for the votes of people who vote for EKRE as well, or do we have voters who share our values and who currently prefer Eesti 200 or Reform Party or somewhere else? So I really have a feeling that the voter profiles are so similar, for example, for us and Eesti 200. So it's easier for us to, if we have clear messages, good policy options, we can address the voters. We can we work for the Estonia that they actually value. So.
One of the points of your program was parem maailma haridus.
Yeah.
Best education in the world.
No, meil on vaja maailma parimat haridust, kiiret ja õiglast rohepööret ja kahtlemata seda tihedamat sotsiaalset turvavõrku, mis kedagi hätta ei jäta.
But according to some ratings, we already have the best education, school education in Europe.
I would say we have very good test scores, or the best test scores in PISA tests for Estonian kids. But when we look at the mental health issues, how much they enjoy school or other aspects, we don't rank that high. And if we don't rank that high in other issues, we can't keep up with having the best exam scores. And in order to be happy with your life, to want to live, if you want to live in Estonia and do something that makes you use your full potential, you need something else than the best test scores in mathematics or languages or whatever. You need other skills, analytical skills, like this critical reading skills, social skills, teamwork skills. You need the full package. So, and this is what is our challenge.
What do you think of a future of Russian-speaking schools?
The Social Democrats have this koosõppiv kool in the program. It means that every child who graduates school in Estonia should be fluent in Estonian. So he or she can get the free higher education or vocational education or enter the job market and have equal opportunities there. But we don't need we need to make Russian-speaking children to study A, B, Sha, start with alphabet. When I started studying Russian, I started with alphabet. You shouldn't do that. We can't have, so you should have the chance to learn Russian as a mother tongue or native language. So we have some I don't know, lessons in the curricula that would differ for us, or Russian literature. I'm not able to read Pushkin in Russian. Well, why should you miss the opportunity if you are able to do it? So a few differences in the program, but the same school. So people with different mother tongues have the chance to form social relationship and play football together or whatever before they're 18. So currently they live and learn in like two different societies.
Beside the good education in your program, when you run as a head of social democracy, you also said that we need a fast green turn. Don't you think that there is too unpopular thing to say while energy crisis?
It might be unpopular, but it's if it happens to be so, it's I would say inadequate reaction to the problems we face. Estonia has been the leader or the front runner, for example, digital transformation of society. We have the e-state, the secure digital identity. We were the first ones. We know that if you take the risks and you make it work for your society, it carries on through years and enables you to build your economic success on it and offers opportunities that you might not perceive firsthand. I've used a lot the example of pharmaceutical benefit, that the digital prescription, and it's seen as a like efficiency issue, that let's lose the paper and do it in a more efficient way. But when we have the digital data, in Estonia, we were able to see that there were so many people, elderly people, for example, who spend a lot on prescription medicine. But only 1/3 of the people who were eligible for the benefit actually applied, because you had to know your pharmaceutical spending, you had to know about the benefit, you had to cover the cost, and then fill out the application, and later on receive the benefit. And the benefit that was meant for a good purpose didn't fill the objective that was set. But now with digital prescription, digital data, the benefit is automatic. You don't have to know whether you're eligible or anything. If you are in a pharmacy and paying for your medicine, the system tells you, oh, you have already spent 100 euros. From now on, the state covers 50% of your pharmaceutical spending. And if you have reached the ceiling of 300 euros, the state will cover 90% of your pharmaceutical spending. And so during this 1 year, we managed to decrease the number of people who spend, I think, more than 300 euros per year on prescription medicine from 17,000 people to 121. So it's not, digitalization is not an efficiency issue. It enables to achieve equity goals as well. And I would say the green or achieving climate objectives or doing this green transformation in society, we should be the front runners. It offers economic opportunity, and it probably helps us solve issues in a way that we couldn't imagine before. I think most Estonians wouldn't argue that we should protect our environment and we should use the resources, natural resources, in a more efficient way, with less waste, more reuse and recycling. So, and since we share the goal, I don't see any good arguments of holding back on the green transition. But of course, we have to ensure that no one loses their income or investments that the enterprises have made. They have their opportunity to earn the necessary revenue in the coming years and so on. So we have to manage the risks, but we know the risks and we have the tools to actually tackle them or tackle the challenges.
What do you think about nuclear power?
On EU level, the consensus or agreement was reached that yes, nuclear power has a role in the climate transition. It offers carbon waste-free energy for many countries. So I don't currently see, without a very, I would say, fundamental change in the use of hydrogen or any other source of new energy, that we can phase out nuclear completely. But the question of whether Estonia should build a nuclear plant is a totally different one. So yes, there is a role for nuclear energy in the coming decades in Europe, but no, I don't think we should build a nuclear plant in Estonia. We have to make the transition quicker, and we don't have the technology that is suitable and acceptable for Estonians currently.
If for some reason Social Democrats won't pass 5% threshold at the parliament, some of the deputies won't go to the parliament, only those who got like quite a lot of votes will get passed. What would you do in this case?
I'm really bad in planning these personal life choices, but for now I work for the best election result in March 2023 for the Social Democrats, and I'm sure we will pass the 5% threshold.
What was the biggest disappointment in your career?
It's very difficult to name one. I'm not a person who regrets or thinks that should have done differently. You can't change the past, so look forward and see what the future brings. But I remember when I worked in the Ministry of Finance, there was change in the electricity excise and so on. I remember that I made this calculation. I discussed with the people from the Ministry of Environmental Affairs, and at the political decisions that were made, I was like, but it's wrong. I explained to the minister, it's not what we need. And this is the time I realized that the politics, they don't make the best decisions for consumers or people. There are other things at play or other things that are taken into account, and it's not a question of me doing better calculation or building a more complex model or better argumentations or anything like this, that the political decision-making works a bit differently.
Is this also happens in the parliament?
Yes, and this, when I worked in the think tank, I also analyzed health policy and so on, and I realized however good I'm in my job, whatever I do, there will be value-based decision made at the end. And now, when I make the decision, at least it's based on the values I consider good or something.
What's the politician you admire the most?
This is a difficult question. I'm actually very critical. It's difficult for me to find something that that's perfect or she's great. I would never been a fan of a band or musician or something. There's music I enjoy, but it's not taking me over like this. And it's the same with politicians. I think we have great female politicians, whether it's Marina Kaljurand, who's excellent, or Kersti Kaljulaid, the change she made by being the president. And that they're Marju Lauristin, Liia Hänni, and Kaja Kallas, they all have the role and something that we all have something to learn from them.
I can spoil that someone called you. Isn't it a little bit hypocritical when deputies that are getting paid 4 times more than average salary talks about poverty?
No, I wouldn't say it's hypocritical. I'm not in the parliament for the money or the financial benefits, and I'm very sorry if any parliamentarian does this work for the financial rewards. This is, I think you'll get the good result for your voters and for the Estonia in general if you work actually for making the society better, standing up for the changes that you actually believe in. Fortunately, that the parliamentarians can't set their own salary. The decisions can be made for the next members of parliament. But in general, the inequality of income is very high in Estonia, and of course the minimum wage should be higher, and in general the poverty level, or people who live in the poverty, in relative poverty, one-fifth, more than one-fifth of Estonians are living in relative poverty, and we haven't been able to reduce the people living in relative poverty. We have been quite successful at reducing absolute poverty, but we should take a much more ambitious approach.
Doesn't it feel like a downgrade to become a deputy after being a minister?
Well, no, it should be an upgrade. When I was a minister, without the parliamentary experience in the parliament, I was repeatedly told that parliament is your employer. You are responsible to the parliament because parliament appoints the government and so on. So it should be an upgrade.
Would you like to go back to the minister's chair?
In politics, you'll never know what tomorrow brings, whether the government loses its power or whatever happens, whether it's war or a health emergency. So you should be ready for anything. Yes, everyone in politics are interested in getting into the power to make the changes that he or she believes in. So of course, the same applies for me.
Usually, the main reason why females don't go to politics because they were raised as mothers, and they really are afraid that they won't have enough time with their kids, and that's the reason why they don't want to. On one hand, that's a very sexist question because you never ask men how to be a good father.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's still a big problem. Is it possible to be a good politician and a good mother at the same time?
Yes, and there's no right way to be a mother. If you like what you do, whatever it is, and if you're happy, then it carries on to other areas as well. And of course, it's difficult to find a balance, but I feel that often people don't realize that, for example, in politics, I still can control my calendar or agree on times. I don't know, if you're a medical nurse or work in a shop, your day starts at 8 o'clock. If your child is sick or wants to come with you to work, so you can't really accommodate. But it's much easier in the politics. When my 6-year-old says that, oh, I don't want to go to the kindergarten, I want to finish the Harry Potter book. Okay, come here, so she can sit here and read her book. So I think it's much easier in some positions than others, and everyone needs to find their way to work around it. But I think it gets easier and easier, especially with fathers having parental benefit or parental leave, this personal right for parental leave, and taking more care of children. It's more about what society thinks about your role as a politician or a mother, and less about the difficulties of finding balance between work and family time.
We got a pandemic lately, and you were a Minister of Health and Labour. What would you do if you would still be a minister differently from Kiik?
In general, during the past 2 years, I think what has been missed the most is some kind of straightforward plan. It's not that important whether you decide to open or close something or limit services or place some restrictions. It's important that the people know beforehand what are the priorities. Do we keep the schools open? How do we move forward if the number of COVID positive people will start going up? So this straightforward plan and a good communication and admitting your mistakes. It's I think part of good crisis management in every situation, and this has lacked during the past 2 years.
Do you have an ambition to become a prime minister one day?
Oh, my daughter asked me, I think a year ago or something like this, to her. I answered, of course, because you don't want to limit the ambition of a child. The sky should be limit for them. But it's not a specific goal I work for. There's so much that you can't predict in politics. I'll do whichever position I am. I'll do the best I can. Now I'm a member of the Financial Committee and the European Affairs Committee, and so I put my effort in getting the best results in the Commission work, with the draft laws in the hall, and standing for the values and the interest of my voters.
Are you going to run for the third time?
I have no idea. Let's see what happens during the next year. We'll have parliamentary elections in 13 months. I'm not able to say anything about, I wish that every young person will find something that interests him or her, something that makes you learn, want to try harder, an area or issue that you want to make a change in. And if you have this internal drive, anything is possible.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks a lot. So, do you think I should run for the third time?
Yes, of course. As always, you're minu kangelane.